especially because, the bands that I've been in have been really heavy,
Mhm.
death metal,
Yeah.
crazy shit.
Nice.
Where I'm just like growling, screaming, yelling. It's not, it's really, really heavy, really, really just like balls out,
Yeah.
animalistic. And then here's my poetry.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Stories, the True and the Fictional. As you can tell from the slightly different style of music, this is going to be a slightly different style of episode. It's something we call Story Chat, where we sit down with an author, a filmmaker, or any kind of storyteller really, and talk to them about their life and their work in a real fun and laid back way. So sit back, relax. Unless you're going for a jog, then run faster. It's story time.
Hello guys and welcome to this episode of Story Chat. Before we crack into it, let you know that this episode is sponsored by Rebecca Cassells and the Rising Dawn series. Check it out on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. But on today's show, we have with us all the way from Queens, New York. No, it's not Spider-Man. It is Michael Centrone.
Yeah. Sorry to disappoint everybody.
That's right. Thanks for coming on, Michael.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. And then on a side note, yeah, Spider-Man is one of my favorite Marvel superheroes. He's one of the few titles that I still collect to this day, actually.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Well, he's also behind us.
Yeah.
So.
I know. I see. And the Ninja Turtles, yeah. It's all New York behind you.
Yep. That was an accident, by the way. I didn't plan. I didn't run around collecting all my New York stuff. I just
Serendipity, baby.
Yep. It was planned. Yeah. So, what do you say we crack into these icebreakers? Let our audience know a bit about you before we talk about your books and your life and stuff. So, Brian, do you want to get the first one?
Yeah, sure. So this you're more than welcome. We tell our guests that they can give us two answers to this. If you want to give us the answer that the political answer and then your personal answer, you can be as selfish as you like. If you could get rid of one thing in the world, what would it be?
Political answer. Okay. I would have to say industrial agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I feel like the whole power dynamic of society and civilization, it just comes down to food production and who controls the food. So
Yeah.
I'd rather see our species be more self-reliant when it comes to food production, and industrial agriculture is pretty much, a small group of people can get to run the show and the rest of us have to depend on them. So I guess that's my political answer. If you want to say,
100% agree with that.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with that.
And personal answer, I'm not that big of a fan of Bruce Springsteen.
All right.
So if maybe like his music was erased from the history books, that would be real convenient for me.
Okay, well, Michael, we've got a surprise. We've got a special guest joining us. It's Bruce Springsteen. No, just kidding.
Yes. All right, the boss is here.
Yeah, I don't think we have that kind of pull yet, but yeah, maybe one. Yeah, I've never been a massive Bruce Springsteen fan. The E Street Band I don't mind because it gave us Steve Van Damme, who's one of my favorite actors in The Sopranos. So I'm quite happy with that. But yeah, look, it's. I think Bruce Springsteen's an either you love him or you hate him.
It's not even anything personal, like with his personality or anything. It's strictly the music and his voice. It's just something. It just does something to me when I'm exposed to it. It's like my kryptonite, man. I can't take it.
I feel that way about James Blunt.
Oh yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah. But you got to respect him because he was like, wasn't he like a Black Ops special in the Bosnian army or something? He was
a tank commander. James Blunt was a tank commander.
I mean, we can respect that side of him, but we just don't have to respect you're beautiful.
It's the media. It's just his music, man. That's it.
That's it.
Well, I humbly support both those answers. So well done, Michael.
Yeah.
All right. Let us know what's on your bucket list.
My bucket list. Couple of things. I mean, I've traveled to a lot of places, played in a few different countries, through music and stuff. And I still have yet to visit Japan, and I've always really wanted to
Oh,
visit
yes.
Japan at some point. I know a lot of people that are from there, some that live here in the States, and just doing like just seeing, pictures and documentaries on the landmarks and the nature that's over there. It's just I've always been intrigued,
Yeah.
to check it out at one point. Um,
Definitely.
and then, yeah, and a more like a personal level, my bucket list, I want to achieve kind of what I would call subjective autonomy, and that is to actually, earn a living contributing work that I'm proud to contribute to the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's
so
the
I've been,
dream, isn't it?
yeah, I've been pretty much, for the most part, um, working, these dead end, soul sucking day jobs,
Yeah.
Yeah.
throughout my life. And I've never really had an extended period where I've been paid enough, contributing the skills and my creative talents that I'm proud of. And so I hope one day soon to accomplish that before I die, at least to feel how that feels.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's anyone who's creative, like myself and Jamie have both been in bands, were in bands for many, many, many years, like yourself. And obviously Jamie's a writer and stuff, and to even to get that small bit of success where you could go, I could take 6 months off work because
Yes.
what I'm making and what I'm contributing, my music or my writing, can fund me for 6 months. You know what I mean? Like that, even just a small amount like that, for me personally, that'd be, I'd be happy with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've had like real minimal tastes of that freedom, doing some tours
Yeah.
with my bands in the past, but it was just a real small little taste, just that taste of like fear, but excitement at the same time, where like there's no safety net anymore. You're basically like out in the wild, and yeah, I definitely want to kind of get that feeling again and more, and kind of like extend on it.
It is. There's something about having that fear, like you were saying, of where there's no safety net, you don't have a job, but I find it fuels, like it fuels the fire a lot more. But you've got to, at the same time, you've got to be smart. At the end of the day, we've all still got bills to pay, we've got rent to pay. You don't want to be out on the street. And I hope for you that you do get a chance to experience that success very soon.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it was gonna. I just turned 40 years old on Monday, and that was pretty much my birthday wish.
Yeah,
I was just like, I spent the majority of the first half of my life in indentured servitude, and I'd look to spend the second part, in freedom. Finally,
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the best answers to the bucket list question we have actually had, because I feel it. Like I for many, I was in my band for 20 years and we never got to that stage where we could stop our day jobs and everything, and that's fine because we created music and it was we had a core fan base, and I never would have met people like Jamie if I didn't do it, and I'm very happy with that. But yeah, I a small part of me just wishes we'd taken that next step and been able to say, you know what, music is now my job, and I would never work another day in my life. You know what I mean? Because when you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. So I think we can definitely relate to that bucket list. So that's very
many people can. Yeah, definitely.
And it's just, I can't imagine what the feeling would be like when you can finally do that. It's just,
I mean, for me at this point, I don't even need to do anything that's super extravagant. I don't even need to be, quote unquote, famous or well known. I'd be perfectly happy. I'd be perfectly happy being, just a regular old Joe on a writing staff somewhere. Don't need any social media. I just have my job. I get my assignments, and I'm writing, and I'm learning, and I have passion for my work. That's more than enough for me, man.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, and if you keep pushing, it will happen. Have faith, and good things happen to good people, and that's all you got to do. So I think that's a solid answer. And I feel really bad about my next question because this is a question that I like to judge a lot of people of. And if you've listened to any of our other episodes, I can be quite harsh. And you asked before, are we allowed to swear? And this is where I like to take it to that next step level. Now, this one, again, is another one where we can split into two parts. It doesn't have to be, you can say what the greatest one is and what your favorite of all time is. That's totally fine because I have one where I think is the greatest, but it's not necessarily my favorite. So in your opinion, what is the greatest sitcom ever made and what is your favorite, your go-to?
They both have to be Seinfeld for me.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I love Seinfeld.
I think, then again, really the one show or sitcom that had me laughing out loud the most when I watched it was Chappelle's Show.
Yep.
And that, that was only 2 or 3 seasons.
Three seasons, yeah.
But the quality of that show, I would each and every skit basically would make me laugh out loud at some point.
Yeah.
It's just I couldn't, I just couldn't fight it. But I think when I talk about like overall just mastery, a masterpiece, it's Seinfeld for me, man. And I can turn any life situation into a Seinfeld reference. It never fails. We all know a low talker. We all know a close talker. We all know people like we all know wacky neighbors like Kramer. And those trivial situations on Seinfeld that everybody comes across in their everyday life. And it just, I can get reminded of Seinfeld situations basically like every day inadvertently. Yeah. So I think that's the main part of the genius behind that show.
And we get a lot of people who say Seinfeld, and I do agree. It's just funny how a show literally about nothing could be so popular and look, it still holds up. We finally got it out on Netflix out here, and I watched it again recently, and it still holds up. It still gives you laughs, and even though it was like at least 10, 15 years ago when the first season came out, it's still
more than that.
Yeah, probably more than that. Yeah,
it ended in. Yeah, it ended in 98.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay, so a lot longer. But it doesn't. But when you watch it, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like, like as you said, situations that can be brought into your life, something that happened yesterday.
Yep.
So Chappelle's Show, I'm all across. That's one of my all-time favorites. We finally got, again, that's something us Aussies are lacking to you guys in the States. We finally got it on Netflix about 6 months ago. I had it on DVD. That's how much I ordered it from the States. Yeah. And just that man is just a comic genius. And I just you're right, every single skit, there's not one boring skit on any episode, you know what I mean? So yeah, look, you have passed that question with flying colors, and
awesome.
The interview will continue on.
All right. I avoided some heated confrontation. That's cool.
Exactly. So well done on that.
Speaking of heated confrontation, do you have a zombie apocalypse plan?
Honestly, beyond grabbing a baseball bat and just giving it my best shot, I haven't really thought too extensively about that. I definitely would. I'd say like the first thing that would cross my mind is just to kind of round up the family. And just take it from there, see what the situation is. I mean, if they're like the really quick moving ones, it's going to be real tough. But if they're like, the Walking Dead kind of zombies where they're just like meandering, we might have, a better chance of surviving at least longer, just with like basic weaponry. Plus, I'll also, kind of like link up with friends that I know that have firearms and stuff, that'll come in handy also. So it's just like strategically planning who my tribe will be, who
So you're hoping for more of the Walking Dead zombies rather than 28 Days Later zombies that run like crazy.
Then we'll have somewhat of a chance.
I like it. Solid answer. All right, the last one. Now this is Mr. Elon Musk has given you a call and he said, "Look, Michael, this is a one-time offer only. I've just developed an electronic time machine car. It's got one use, and I'm going to give you a watch where you can push a button and it'll bring you back to the exact time that you left. where do you go? What do you do and where do you go?
So I'm going back somewhere, and I can come back from there.
Yeah, you can go forward, you can go back, and you've got to watch that. You can push the button. It will bring you back to the exact same moment that Elon Musk offered you the time machine. So
theoretically, you could punch Hitler and then poof.
Yeah, exactly. You know? If you had no worries about, any issues being caused by your traveling, there's none of that. When you hit that button, it erases everything that you've done.
Really?
And you go back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, you still got the memories.
No.
But if you say, for example, if you did go and punch Hitler and ended up killing him, that will be erased. You could just you would just have the memory knowing that you had punched Hitler and killed him. So yeah.
I'd say, man, I kind of have two answers.
Yeah, give us both. We're not Joe Rogan. You can give as many answers as you want.
I would definitely be intrigued to go back, to, I'd say, like the early 1900s when, when baseball was kind of like really hitting like the Babe Ruth era baseball, and just like catching a Yankee game and watching Babe Ruth play, or maybe like the game where he allegedly called his shot, in the World Series against the Cubs. That'd be cool to see, just to kind of like solve that mystery once and for all, whether he did or didn't do it.
I think that's a solid.
And then again, for like existential purpose, I would like to go back to a period before the agricultural revolution and just see how we functioned as hunter-gatherers.
Yeah.
Which I feel is kind of like the lifestyle that we're still biologically and mentally catered to. That's kind of like what we still yearn for in a way, and the thing is I don't even really need a time machine literally to do that, because there are still some traditional societies that exist today, mostly in Northern Africa and stuff. But yeah, I just feel like, man, we just belong in the woods. We belong in the wild, just wilding out. And just, we belong under Mother Nature's oppressive regime out, other than fellow humans' oppressive regime. So yeah, I guess, those two spots I'd be intrigued to check out and just observe and report, come back, and then come back and I'll write my personal essay on both the things, both those situations.
I think that's good. I think as you get older, like I'm 40, I turned 40 this year as well, like yourself. Awesome. I think if you'd said that to me when I was 20, where that we belong with Mother Nature and we belong out in the woods, I would have been like, yeah, whatever, But like as you get older, I could not agree more. I could not agree more. We live in Sydney. Well, Jamie's lucky, he lives in the mountains, so that's why I come up here to record this when I can. But I live in the heart of Sydney, so the heart of the city and everything, and I hate it. I just want to move out of the city into a rural regional area, and just live on the land, man. Like, just it's maybe something when you hit that 35-40 mark and you just feel about, like, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And dude, I'm here in the mouth of hell. I'm in New York City.
Yeah.
This is the capital. This is the capital of just, run and gun, pressure, claustrophobia, crazy pace. And I've lived here my whole life. So it's good. And just this past week, I was away, and me and my girlfriend, we went upstate to where it's more like rural and more just like slowed down, where there's like no traffic lights at all. Just stop signs here and there, and we did a lot of hiking. We hit up a lot of trails. We saw a lot of waterfalls, a lot of nature and stuff like that, in all different spots. And it just felt so good to be in like the quietness, the silence of nature, and just instead of the sound of traffic, you hear the sound of the falls in the background. And it just it taps into something that's just calming, and okay, this is where I can kind of like shed that that civilized version of myself,
And it makes it that much harder to go back home, doesn't it?
Oh, I arrived back home earlier today. Dude, it wasn't even 5 hours being back home where I just felt just demoralized. I just felt like absolutely miserable already. I didn't even go back to work yet, like
Yeah. Yeah, like me and my housemate, my best friend, me and her, we went to somewhere in central New South Wales called Dubbo not long ago, a couple of months ago, and it's like a regional village. Like they have a zoo there, which is why we went. But within 5 minutes of leaving Dubbo, it's just beautiful, lush, like it's just amazing. And we were only there for 4 days, and the day we came back, it was so depressing. And so not because we're back from holidays, but just because we're back into the city. When we were there, you could smell the air and you could breathe. And then we came back to the city, and it was almost smothering.
You feel the pressure come back on your eyebrows. You feel the pressure come back on your chest just so subtly, and you didn't even realize it was gone.
Yep.
But when you arrive back home and then you feel it, you're like, oh man, I guess this is like my standard physical state that I'm not even aware of until I change my setting and my environment.
Yeah, I could not agree more.
It's a trip.
I'm trying to make it in my bucket list within the next year or two to move out somewhere like that, to get out of the city, because I mean, we're in a world. COVID has actually done us a favor in one retrospect, where remote working is now a thing that is common. And like I feel like as long as I do my job, what does it matter where I do it? And that it is a real possibility. So I've set myself a goal. We said, within the next 2 to 3 years, we're saving and just want to get out of Sydney, because it's just it hurts you. I felt like it. I know this is weird, but it hurts my soul.
I know. I totally understand. I can relate 1,000%. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's just, don't even. Yeah.
I think that what you've said is probably, again, one of the, and I don't say this lightly, one of the better answers we've had. So thank you for that.
Yeah, living in cities like this, man, it's not correct. We're not as a species, as animals. I feel like, people in the cities like this, when you see like in a zoo and there's like a bear in a cage and he's just like pacing back and forth in the cage, and then like his handler saying, he gets depressed and he doesn't want to eat anymore. He doesn't want to play. I feel like we're kind of the same way. We're still basically animals, and we're in this zoo. Yeah. And, it totally like crushes our spirit. We feel so claustrophobic and in a cage like this. And that's why, it's so awesome when you can just like get into like the country, you can get into nature and just feel your surrounding expand. The sky seems so much larger, and you see stars and shit. And
you and I are talking about this. You look at Jamie's. If you look out Jamie's back window, he has a forest behind him. So that's why I come up here. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm surrounded by national park. The only issues we have is fire. Like fire season comes around, and we've had a few close calls, but
I honestly think that's why he's so relaxed all the time, even though he does work. It's just like I come up here, and at the moment we're going through a bit of a wet season. And I was just sitting there watching TV before the interview, and I looked out the window, and it's mist. It's got that beautiful mist coat across the trees, and I was like, man, seriously.
That's all. That's all the entertainment we really need, man. That's it. We don't need more than that. We think we do, but we don't.
Yeah. No, exactly. I could talk about this for hours, but let's get to the reason why you're here. Now, before we talk about your writing, as I said, me and Jamie are both musicians as well. Do you mind if we take some time to delve into your music career?
Sure.
So why don't you take us through how you got started in music, the bands that you're in, and obviously you've had experience touring and go to different countries. Why don't you take us through that?
Yeah. Well, okay. My original passion was writing. And even from elementary school, And it wasn't until just before I started like my early teenage years, I started to get involved with music and putting some bands together. And then I played my first like official gig when I was 15.
Oh wow.
And it was a bar. It was at a bar here in Queens. So, and the legal drinking age is 21. So
You still had 7 years. You had 6 years to go.
yeah, 6 years to go. We definitely got an early start in the game. And then by the time I was actually, of legal drinking age, that's when the first band I was in, we started, doing a lot of touring here in the United States and some of Canada. And then that first band I was in lasted about like 10 years, and that band broke up. And then a couple of years after that, I joined another band that I was actually a fan of when I was,
Wow.
younger. And the two original members, they were a little bit older than me. And it's ironic that when I joined that band, my goal wasn't really to make it a career. I was just taking the approach of I want to focus just solely on the artistry of the music and really just take it in stride. Whatever opportunities come and we can take advantage, let's do it. But with the first band, it was more like, this is our dream. We're gonna try to make this a career and do all we can, make all the sacrifices that we can while we're still young. And it didn't pan out. But when I joined this other band, I actually did get to enjoy a lot of the success that I wanted to have with my first band.
Yeah.
So it's weird that, when I wasn't hunting for the success, that's sort of when it just naturally came.
Yeah.
And I basically got to check a lot of, stuff, a lot of like milestones off my personal list as a musician in the last band that I was in, aside from making it a career. I basically got to do everything else that I wanted to do as a musician. And then that last band that I was in, it broke up 3 years ago in 2019, and something clicked in my head where I said, maybe it's about time that I start publishing some of my writing, because I had been writing the whole time,
Okay.
whether it was poetry or journaling or short stories or even comedy. Like I did stand-up comedy for a little while too. But I never shared much of it with anybody, and I never published anything. And once I kind of felt like maybe, not that my career in music is definitely finished, but I didn't really have an itch to join another band at that time. If anything, I had more of like, I pivoted back to my original passion, which was writing. And I'm like, maybe I want to start publishing some stuff and just releasing it. Then it became like, okay, what is that process about? I started from scratch, no idea how to publish a book or anything like that. I didn't have any blog or anything like that. So I just started, from a real beginner standpoint with all of it. And I'm still learning on the go and learning the ropes of the literary arena and everything. And it's great, man. It's fun. And it's something that I can tend to every single day and do it at my pace. I control the narrative. And the feedback that I've been getting from my writing, it's just, most of it is encouraging. And it's even at the same time allowing me to learn more about myself that I didn't even really know when I was younger. It really answered a lot of my inner questions and my philosophical questions, just based on expanding on ideas and writing about them. I'm able to unlock all these little inner mysteries, and it's been an awesome, interesting experience. Coming from music to writing.
Well, that was our next question. The next question was the transition from writing music to writing poetry. But it sounds like you never really stopped. At the end of the day, I would write, in my band, I was the vocalist, so I would write the songs. And it could be a song, it could be poetry, like, you know what I mean? There's not much of a major difference in between it. But
Right.
were you always writing poetry, or was it just something that you picked up as a musician?
No, I was always writing poetry, but like I said, I never shared it with anybody.
Yeah.
I just wrote it, sort of like as therapy for myself in a way. Uh, it's just the best way that I can express what I'd be going through at that particular time in my life. And it kind of really took a big step in bravery to actually decide to publish
Yeah.
a lot of these very intimate thoughts and emotions that were turned into lyrical prose, um where during the process I was bashing through all these different comfort zones, bashing through all these walls of like shyness, or being afraid of like exposing my inner and my deepest thoughts and feelings and stuff. Because generally speaking, I'm a private person, for the most part. I'm not one of those people that goes on social media and reports on my daily activities or my daily thoughts.
You're not a TikToker?
No, no. So, and I did write all the lyrics for the bands that I was in, and that was one way for me to express a lot of these deep thoughts. But at the same time, they were sort of camouflaged a little bit in the music and with the band.
Yeah.
But with say like a poetry book, or publishing poetry, it's naked. There's no band behind me. There's no support. It's just my thoughts there, plain as day, raw, unfiltered. And it's just it's awesome to crush through those walls of just fear of expressing your true self, sharing your true self with the world. And it just makes it even more rewarding when I get good feedback on the poetry, because like I know how it feels to be inspired by someone else's art, someone else's literature. and the fact that people tell me that I may have that effect on them, it's so rewarding. It's just like, that is what it's all about. So yeah, like the poetry and the books, that's big time, like my passion projects. I'll continue to do that. And but I'm also very interested in diving into like the journalistic world, whether it's music journalism or culture, because I have interest in all these different fields of culture and lifestyle, entertainment, sports, music. Whatever I'm interested in, I enjoy writing about it and expressing my thoughts, or reporting on somebody else's experiences, somebody else's thoughts. I just want to share moments with people, and whether that's through literature or just by hanging out with them in person. I'm big on, like, if I come across something that I enjoy, most of the time I feel like, oh man, I have to share this with somebody. Like, this deserves to be seen by somebody or experienced by someone. I love sharing stuff that really excites me with other people or with the masses. So that's why writing, and publishing is really turns me on, because it's all along those lines, man, of just sharing awesome ideas, or sharing art, feelings. Yeah.
No, I agree. And sorry, this question is just a little bit of a spin-off. It's not on the list, but I think that's a wonderful thing that you can do, and it can be quite, like you were saying, can be quite scary to go, this is something that you're very passionate about. How is the world going to take it? So in saying that, who, obviously you mentioned you had a girlfriend. Was she one of the, like, is she one of the people that you share your works with? When you started putting this out, would you go to her, or did you have people that you could go to and say, look, this is what I'm working on at the moment, can I get some feedback? Rather, and look, that before you put it out there, kind of thing?
No, I didn't show it to anybody
No,
in the
okay.
process. I kept it private until, like, for the most part, until like the release dates.
Oh wow, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't really have a rhyme or reason of why I've done that. Maybe I'm just afraid of like getting too harsh of constructive criticism where I need to like redo something,
Yeah.
fully or um but also at the same time I still feel like confident enough in my work where, like, I appreciate constructive criticism, don't get me wrong. I'm all for it. But, with especially with poetry, it's like um I can't really expect someone to fully grasp where it's coming from
Yeah.
because obviously they're not in my head, they're not in my heart,
Mhm.
so they, whatever feedback they have, they're not really coming from the source per
Yeah.
se,
No, I
where,
get you.
and
Because it's coming from your heart. It's coming from
yeah,
your, from
yeah.
inside of you. They may not see
Well,
it. Yeah, I get you.
and like, I mean, the books that I published, I have worked with a professional editor. So I've taken, her constructive criticism, and I told her from the beginning, I'm like, "Yo, don't be afraid to just tear my shit apart,
Yeah.
because I want it to be as strong and as solid as possible. I want these thoughts to be communicated and translated as clearly as possible, while still maintaining, an artistry to them." Um, but as far as like sharing it beforehand with like my close people in my inner circle, I haven't done that. I haven't done that in the process. Maybe I will if for future projects, just to like experiment.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But yeah, for the most part, I've kept it private until like it's time to be released and promoted and stuff.
And in saying that, have you had people that have been surprised and when they've read it and they've gone, wow, like this is actually really powerful, and
Oh,
they can relate to you on that level?
oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
it continuously to this day. Um, yeah, a lot of people, they were super shocked when I first promoted my first book. And a lot of people, and then especially when they read the book and didn't know that, I had gone through, such dark times in my life and everything, because, we all put on these masks for the public. And when I publish poetry, it's just I'm exposing, my naked, vulnerable, inadequate self, and at the same time, like I said, when people give me feedback and they say like, "Oh, I feel the exact same way. I know exactly what you're talking about," and it's just awesome that you're writing something that I wish I can say to people, uh, and you're putting it in such a way where like I can't articulate it even in my own head, but reading your stuff, it's sort of like making it clear in my own head. um yeah, it's it came to a shock. It came as a shock to a lot of people, especially family members, um because yeah, they with anybody, it's you never really know what's going on behind the scenes, what's going on in their head. And
Well, that's right. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
exactly. No, I was going to say, like, I was very intrigued when Jamie first brought up the interview, and he, because we were in punk bands, but I'm a massive, massive metal fan.
yeah.
And I thought, oh wow, okay. And then I said, oh, so he's also a writer, and he said, and Jamie said, yeah, he writes poetry, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be really interesting because it's generally, even though, as you say, with songwriting, it can be like intertwinable, but those two things don't generally go together. And I feel now that we've had this chat, the beginning of the chat,
Yeah.
the way that you're explaining it, it makes perfect sense. I couldn't see it any other way. So
Especially because the bands that I've been in have been really heavy. death metal, crazy shit.
Nice.
You know, where I'm just like growling, screaming, yelling. You know, it's not. You know, it's really, really heavy, really, really just like balls out,
Yeah.
animalistic. And then, you know, then here's my poetry, you know.
Yeah. And but I think I find that it's, you know, it's interesting, and to me that would grab me to buy. Like if I didn't meet you through this interview, it would sort of grab me. You know what? I'm gonna check this out, because
Yeah.
they're two different ends of the extreme, but they're not really when you talk about
No.
it. You know
Because
what I mean? Like it's
because the content of the lyrics that I wrote for bands and then for poetry, it's all along those same lines. It's very, you know, for the most part, it's dark.
Yep.
It's dark, it's raw, it's it evolves around a lot of like philosophy and you know, mental health,
Mhm.
which, you know, a lot of people can relate to, especially in modern times.
Oh, definitely.
um and like at you know, at the same time, it's just a different delivery of the same content,
Just gonna say
you
that
know.
it's the same message, just
Yeah,
delivered in two different
yeah.
extremes.
And it's cool because like uh in promoting this new book, I've done podcasts, you know, that are music oriented, where, you know, they promote me as, you know, the singer of my former bands, and then, you know, we talk about my book.
Yeah.
And it's it's cool, you know, getting people in the chat, and that they're showing interest to begin with is awesome, you know. And then, because I mean, typically people hardly even read the lyrics for the bands,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know. So it's cool and it's refreshing to know that people actually still read lyrics,
Mhm.
and, you know, are intrigued enough to even read poetry. You know, poetry is such a specific niche. It's such a like a, you know, it's not really a super popular
Yeah.
niche as far
Yeah.
as literate. It's a real like acquired taste. Like even me myself, I don't read a lot of poetry myself.
Mm.
I like to write it, and I'll read other people's stuff. I have, you know, some personal favorites, but for the most part, when I read books, they're normally they're normally nonfiction.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm real interested in like evolutionary biology and anthropology and history. I like reading that kind of stuff, but I just love writing poetry, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's like me. I like writing fiction, but I prefer reading nonfiction. You
Yeah.
know, like I'm huge on history, especially Australian history, because we got some pretty um crazy stuff that's happened in our short past. But
Yeah, all
yeah.
of them.
Do we want to just move on to talk a little bit about your first book?
Okay. Yeah, the first poetry collection, it was titled "How Much Is Self-Worth? Ruminations of a Rented Slave." And there are actually some poems in there that I had written like 20 years prior,
Oh wow.
and I just, you know, brought them back, revised them, and included them in the book. And like I purposely wrote that book without much of a background, you know, studying how to write poetry or like really looking into the craft. I just wanted to write it straight up from my lyrical prose approach that I took, you know, writing lyrics for bands. And it wasn't until after I published that first book where I actually did start to take a deep dive into the craft of poetry itself. So like with this new book with Powerless Machine, um, it does read and look more, you know, like poetry.
Yeah.
But the first book is just, it's more like stream of consciousness. um and it can go on like weird tangents here and there. A good portion of it is centered around like mental health, personal experiences dealing with depression, um personal experiences dealing with a lot of the crazy stuff that happens here in New York City. um and then also just all like the existential pressures of modern society that get put on us as a species, as people. And it's just like recognizing your worth, recognizing your self-worth, being able to define it and coming to terms with it. And then it's about, okay, what are you willing to do to cultivate that? And, to be able to uh, make your surroundings better for everybody else involved. And at the same time, maintaining your own personal sense of like well-being and your own personal sense of self-worth. It was more about like making whatever sacrifices need to be made in order to achieve a sense of self-worth. And I had no idea what to expect with the reaction or the sales, and I was pleasantly surprised with how well it did for indie release and my first book. Like when I wrote that manuscript, it was handwritten first.
Oh,
and
cool.
and then once I felt it was finished, I guess, and then I was like, okay, now how the hell do I turn this notepad into a book? What the hell is that process like? And I was lucky that I had a friend of mine. His name's Ed Flora. He had published a novel maybe the year before, and he published it independently also. It's like it was a horror novel called Ropes in the Attic, and great book. I bought a copy and I read it. It was awesome. So I came to him first, and I asked him for advice on how the hell to turn a manuscript into a book and everything. He gave me, and he was very helpful, giving me like a step-by-step process to where I was finally like, okay, I'm ready to publish. And, there was just a lot of like panicking along the way and just like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm not, I feel like, oh man, I'm not tech savvy enough to like make this work and figure this out. It was big learning experience, that first book. But I was just, it was just awesome to like power through the fear and the doubt, and the self-sabotage, and just power through it. Even if you have to like break down and cry, just, get the bitching out of your system and then proceed.
Yeah.
If you feel overwhelmed and like, okay, maybe you need a moment to just like collapse and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Let that process happen. And then once you kind of get over that hurdle, then it was back to like, okay, let's take it step by step and do it one thing at a time. However it has to get done, it's going to get done. And it got done. And it was great to just put it out there and have no expectations really on sales or whatever. But it was awesome, just like the reaction that it got. It's just like it felt so good, man.
That's great. So with your new one coming out, the powerless machine, did you find that easier to put together and to write because of the first one, or were you trying to be a little bit more finical, nitpicky with the second one?
The process was easier as far as like figuring out how to self-publish straight through Amazon. Once you do it once, it's just very easy to replicate the process. And again, I used the same editor, Shelby Newsom, the same editor to do this book. So I already had experience working with her. So that was easy to go through that process. And again, she didn't hold anything back as far as like giving me notes and making suggestions and telling me like, oh, this part, I really don't understand what you're trying to say here. Try to like reword this to make it come across clearer. So that wasn't overwhelming this time either. And then just like the simple like trivial steps of like buying an ISBN number and stuff like that, where like first go around it was overwhelming. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. This time around I was like, okay, I'll assign the number to this new book and this is how you do it and this and that. As far as marketing the book goes, this time I kind of took a different approach where I reached out to people like yourself who have podcasts, because I feel like as I've been able to like promote the book straight from me speaking about it, it's garnering more like attention, it's garnering more intrigue, as opposed to the first book. I just really promoted it more like in newsletters, buying ad space on websites and stuff like that, where I didn't feel it affected the sales all that much. I just feel like it was kind of like a waste of money after a while. This time around, I wanted to really just like put myself out there more to talk about the book, and especially doing podcasts where they'll allow people to chime in the chat, ask me questions straight up, and that's been a lot more effective as far as generating interest in this new book. So yeah, it's this time around, it's been easier to go through this process. I haven't felt like overwhelmed really at all. And but at the same time, I'm always trying to experiment. I'm always trying to take new routes to market it, or and to get put the word out there. I mean, and I appreciate you guys for taking me on and bringing me on here. I mean, and it's funny, like I just amongst sales of my first book, I saw that there was a sale from Australia, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, there's a part of me I wish I knew who that was, or how the hell they even heard of me over there. So that's awesome, man. That's one thing about like technology and the World Wide Web that's just really cool, that we can kind of like, just like we're doing right now, we can communicate on different ends of the globe, and just we can share ideas with each other, but also at the same time, it kind of just like shrinks the playing field to be ruled over. It kind of like keeps everybody easier. It's easier to track everybody and keep everybody under the umbrella, keep everybody connected. But
I agree with what you're saying about the way you're promoting this book by coming on podcasts like ours, and it shows how passionate you are, and people will be more likely to like. I can speak from personal experience. I have bought so many books from people that we've interviewed since we started doing this a couple of years ago, and it's because I can feel the passion, and I can feel how much that not only how much it means to you, but how much of yourself you put into these things. And that will, anytime I can see that, or I hear a podcast, or I see an interview on YouTube or something, and then I can feel it, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to check this out. I may not like it, but it's gotten me in the door, and I may end up being a fan for life. You know what I mean? And I get so much more than that aside from a Facebook post. You know what I mean?
Right. Of course. Yeah. And getting back to what I was saying before, man, it's just, I just want to share in something that I enjoy. And really, I just want people to recognize the power that they have in themselves, and just, if I can, inspire somebody, even if they, not necessarily if they want to write a book or whatever, but like if somebody's feeling a little bit like, have self-doubts, if they want to like pursue a career or something like that, I kind of want to like put that impression out there just through my work that, listen, go for it. Even if you feel like it's impossible, or people are telling you like, oh, that's not a career, or that won't work, or nobody's done that before. Like, I hate, and it happens to me too, I just hate seeing people just become discouraged, and then they like give up on something prematurely, without like writing it out as far as they can. That shit just like, it really frustrates me, especially when I can see the potential in somebody, and like and I'll and you know I'll ask them, oh, what's been going on with this project or that project, and they'll be like, I don't know, I kind of really like gave up on it. It wasn't really like I wasn't really like confident in what I was doing. Like, somebody criticized it, and it kind of just like, totally like shut me down. I'm like, and I just want to say like, nah, man, fuck that. Fuck what one person is saying about your shit.
Mhm.
Like, it's just one person, just for that one person, there's like 10 or 20 other people that may be into it, and you may never even know it.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
may not express it to you at all, ever.
Yep.
And you'll never find out that they dig your shit, but they're out there.
Yep.
And just don't put hyper focus on that one asshole
Yep.
that's probably just like jealous ultimately that they themselves can't like make anything happen.
100%.
And like I said, man, like Powerless Machine, this new book, a lot of it is about that, man. A lot of it is like overcoming those feelings of powerlessness, man, and just like propping yourself up and just kind of knocking down those walls of doubt and fear, because ultimately deep down we are free. We do have autonomy, and it's just like modern cultures, where they kind of dupe us into thinking we don't, into thinking, that we're just more and more like machines, and we're just here to do jobs, and we're just here to serve our function to society. It's like, no, man, we're way more than that. We're way more freer than that, than we're led to believe. That's one of the main messages I want to have come across in Powerless Machine, this new book. I want people to be reminded of what they have inside of them, myself included. I need to remind myself constantly, like, yo, even though I have my routines and I have my day job and stuff like that, ultimately I am free to pursue what I wish, what that's within my power.
Yeah.
And it's just, even if you have to just remind yourself every day, even if you have to like lie to yourself, ultimately, you'll train your brain into just recognizing reality and the truth. It's like, yeah, man, we're here to just connect with each other and just share in moments with each other. That's what it's all about, man. It's not about establishing this grand lucrative career, or getting the next ill iPhone. It's not about that, man. It's just about connections and relationships and love, and just having good times with people and making memories. That's all this is.
Yep.
You want to have a story to tell at the end,
Yeah.
and there's a poem in Powerless Machine. It's called Look to the Deathbed. And really, that's it, man. Like, when you're on your deathbed, you just want to be able to look back and know that you had this awesome story that you went through, and then you didn't leave anything on the table,
Oh.
Wow.
You've definitely got me interested in purchasing this and your other one. So tell us, when's it coming out? Where can we get it? Where can our listeners get it? Because we want to spread the word as much as possible.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, Powerless Machine actually comes out this Tuesday, the 15th, on Amazon. It's available in ebook. I mean, the pre-order is live. It's been live for the ebook.
Okay.
But then on the 15th, the paperback is also available. And my first book, the same deal. My first book, it's available on Amazon. The first book, I actually recorded the audiobook for it also.
Excellent.
Wow.
You did that yourself?
I narrated it myself.
Excellent.
I had my old guitar player record it and everything. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, you can hear the first book in my boring ass, New York drawl.
No. Look, I'm more likely to get an audio book if it's actually read by the author. I tell you that, because it's there. It's your passion. It's your words. You're going to get a better experience if you're reading it than if Joe Blow is reading it. So I'm more likely to buy the audio book on Amazon if it's done by the actual author.
Yeah.
You could also consider doing a growling version as well. For the fans.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I'm down. I'm down. I just need like the music behind me. I need the foundation behind me. And then okay, then when it comes time to mix the audio, then you can erase all the music. Then you'll just have the vocal track.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we'll
So there
use
you go.
that.
You're all across it already. You don't need us. You don't need our suggestions.
Yeah. It was always funny in the recording process when we'd be going into the mixing, and they would isolate my vocal track, and I just hear my voice with no music, and it just sounds like I'm a psychopath. Where like and getting back to like, the benefits of writing as opposed to being in a band, especially as a singer, because as a singer, I wasn't able to practice my instrument here at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if I sang the way I sang for my bands here at home, people would think, there's
Someone
a
being
murder
murdered.
happening. Yeah. But with writing, I can do that anytime I want, every single day, and it's good. And
I love it.
Problem.
Yeah, no I always wondered, how some of the death metals. I'm a big Slipknot fan, and I always wondered, like, I think Corey Taylor has one of the best voices in the world, and that's just my opinion. But I always wondered if he ended up ever doing some practice at home before they were majorly famous, if there was any police called because of.
Well, I mean, in Iowa, maybe he didn't.
Yeah,
maybe his neighbors weren't, all that close. But here in New York City, here in my apartment, I have two families that live in the two levels above me.
Yeah,
and I have buildings that are just feet wide next to me of space. So I'm surrounded by a bunch of people in close quarters. So they'll hear it for sure. Me growling.
I love it. Oh, that's awesome. No, well, so make sure. So you said the Powerless Machine comes out on the 15th of November. Is that correct?
Yep. On Amazon.
Get the digital book. You were saying it's already available for pre-sale, the ebook, and then on the 15th we've got the paperback as well coming out.
Yep.
Excellent. I'll be jumping on after we finish recording to put my because I'm a digital reader. I just don't have the I have all my old books, but I'm a massive horror fan too. So I read a lot of Stephen King, which is about 1 billion pages per book. So it's easy to take my Kindle or my iPad and have all of these books on there, as opposed to carrying around like thousands of pages books. So I'm definitely a digital reader. So I will be, I'll jump on and pre-order it myself. So that'll be 2 sales from Australia.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it.
So far.
Did you like Terrifier 2, by the way?
Sorry? Oh, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it. Okay. No, I keep seeing good things because we've only just got Shudder out here too. So I've just been delving into I've never seen the VHS series. I've been delving into those, but I haven't seen Terrifier 2 yet. I've seen the clown, like the pictures of the clowns and everything. So I'm going to check it out.
It's fun, Okay.
And
there's another new one that came out called Barbarian.
I saw that. That was Bill Skarsgård. I did not. Yeah, we won't spoil it for anything. Me and my housemate watched it last weekend. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's wild. That Barbarian actually haunted me more than Terrifier too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. There's some crazy shit at the end of that movie.
Oh yeah. And
Jamie's not a massive horror fan, so he won't have seen it. But I heard good things about it when it came out. And I love Bill Skarsgård, and as soon as the title came out, and I'm like, I read the synopsis, and I thought, okay, you know what, let's check it out. So we put it on, and such a good movie.
It was good. Yeah, it was good misdirection, like in that first half.
I want to check out Terrifier 2. I might do that when I get home. I've heard nothing but good things.
It's fun. It's a fun, just he's kind of like Freddy Krueger. He's just funny. He's just funny, but he's more brutal. He's just way more brutal.
Well, I've heard that it's had people turning it off and stuff. That stuff doesn't affect me too much. I haven't ever turned off a horror movie, but that's a good sign for me. So
it kind of ruined Serial for me.
Yeah.
And you'll see. Yeah, you'll see in the
Okay.
movie.
Okay. All right. I'll let you know once I've watched it in the next day or two.
I can't look at cereal the same way.
Oh, nice.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for coming on, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, man.
And please reach out to us. Once I'm sure there's another book in the works after Powerless Machine. When you're ready to promote that, jump on, because it's been a great chat. We'd love to have you back.
Absolutely, man. Thank you again. This has been a ton of fun.
Excellent.
And before we let you go, just want to let our listeners know where they can learn more about you. If you've got a website or your socials or wherever you want people to stalk you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on most of the social website. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. It's pretty much like Michael Centrone Writer.
Yep.
On all those pages. I also have a blog on medium.com. So it's michaelcentrone.medium.com.
Yeah.
And on that blog, there's some poetry that I'll post. I'll post some op-eds. I'll post some personal essays. And yeah, that's pretty much it. As far I'm still dragging my feet on making my own website. That's definitely something that's like I need to take care of sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, yeah, I'm on most of the social media platforms. Michael Centrone Writer, and yeah, I have a blog on medium.com.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, and don't forget, guys, the book's out on Amazon on the 15th of November. That's The Powerless Machine. And try and make sure you jump on and pick up How Much Is Self-Worth, which is currently out as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Before I let you go, say hi to Spider-Man and the Ninja Turtles next time you see them.
Hell yeah. Awesome. I love it.